Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we have Mary Fischer-Nassib on the show. How was your weekend?
Weekend was great. So I was looking forward to seeing you today. So nothing else mattered Saturday and Sunday. I was like, I get to see Matt on Monday.
How about
not really, but I'm happy to be here. So it was nice. Yeah, I had a great weekend.
Who else looks forward to Mondays? We got a friend of the show and someone you know as well, a friend of the Fishers. For the people who don't know you, give a quick introduction and then we'll get into it.
Quick introduction. Wow. Mary Fischer-Nassib, co-founder and president of SowGoodNow.org. It is a sports philanthropy organization, a nonprofit that gives student athletes, high school and college athletes, opportunities to share their time, their talent, their treasures, and their ties with youth from underserved areas. It's founded in 2018, and it's operated out of Newtown Square, Pennsylvania.
So to understand why, we'll go back all the way. I don't know. Most of the people I have on the Wolff Den, I don't know much about. We've only met once or twice maybe, but I know your family well. So you grew up with a very big family. It's huge. So talk about the family and growing up and how you got to this, to where you're at today with regards to sports, because that's really the big, that all led up to where you are today.
Yep, I'm from a very big family by most people's standards. Which of my family members do you know again? I know you know Frankie and Matt, right?
Yeah, I know Matt and I knew Bill.
Bill, yeah. Matt and Bill. Well, 9 brothers. Bill passed 2 years ago, but 9 brothers and 2 sisters. So there were 12 kids in our family. I am the 6th. And when I was 1.5 years old, my mother had twin boys, identical twin boys. And then she went on to have 4 more after that. So a good part of my life was involved in raising younger brothers and sisters. And it was a real community. I kind of joke, Sow Good Now is a nonprofit. And I thought, well, I know I haven't had a nonprofit experience, but in reality, my mom kind of ran a small nonprofit, right? We always had extra kids over. Our house was always a gathering place, a learning place, a coaching place. But when I was 12, I went to high school at 12 or 13. And actually, my mom had just had my brother, Bill. So it's kind of a weird dynamic. I had 2 brothers in college and then had an infant brother at home as well as a toddler and a couple others. And as you can imagine, you kind of have to learn by doing in a big family like that. And when I went to kindergarten, my parents drove us there, but my older brother, John, walked me to the classroom and said, here's your classroom. So it's a little different than helicopter parenting, to say the least, but you learn independence and resilience. And I think that kind of is part of who I am, is just knowing you can get things done. But when I went to high school, so it's 1976, if you think back then, Cardinal Gibbons High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I was staying after school one day. My brother, John, he was my ride home. He was running cross country. So I was waiting in the gym and I saw the girls volleyball team playing in there. And I was like, wow, that looks like a really cool sport. So I asked one of the girls, Anne-Marie Yap, still friends with her on Facebook. She was in my class. I said, hey, Anne-Marie, what is this? Can I try out? She said, well, let me go ask the coach. So she went and she asked the coach, and nothing like today, where by the time you enter high school, you've played club for 3 years and you've had coaching and everything. So I just walked in and the coach said, sure. So I joined a lineup, and in the old days, you kind of had to make do. But the line up of the drill was all the girls had to go and jump to see if they could touch the bottom of the basketball net. And luckily that was a good thing I was good at. I wasn't good at much because there were no sports offered for women or girls, and that was the first sport experience that I had. Cheerleading was the only thing in grade school. So anyway, I jumped up and palmed the backboard, on the glass and just smacked it. And the coach calls me over and says, "Okay, what's your name again?" And then I joined the team, and the team it's a very good program. She doesn't coach there anymore, but we were state champions 4 years in a row. And I learned a lot about myself and a lot about winning and the attitude about winning, and about teamwork and just all the essential skills. But the first few days, first few months, really, she would say, "Jump up and block this ball," and I would take the whole net down with me because it was like baby giraffe. I didn't really have control of my body, so it was a pretty steep learning curve. And from there, I by winning the state championships and knowing that we would be down in games. Maybe the score at that time was a little different. We'd be down close to 1 point from losing, and we would come back because the other teams heard about our reputation, and they thought, "Oh gosh, they're supposed to win. We're not supposed to win." And I said, "I can't believe this team is psyching themselves out." And we would win games we really didn't. We made a lot of mistakes, and so I carried that forward through life. And there's also this saying. So if you think back about it, you and I talked the last time a little bit about women and women's rights and what does it mean to me. So Title IX was just recently passed, and a girl on my team, she was pretty advanced in the volleyball world. She was from a different area. Our area was just growing, and her parents took her to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And I said, "Can I please go with you?" Right. So I hopped in the car with them. I'm sure they weren't real thrilled with taking me, but they did. They were good. And I saw that you could get a scholarship. In my mind, it was real. So, you say, if you see it, you can be it. And that's a term we think about a lot when we're working with the underserved youth. If they see it, they could be it. So make a long story short, I walked on to Villanova, said, "Do you have a volleyball team?" In those days, there was no internet. There wasn't anything. You couldn't really find out information. So somebody said, "Yeah, I think there is. Here's a girl that, she's on the team." She was 6'4". I was like, "Oh my goodness gracious, this is going to be hard." But she was not the norm. And then ended up earning a scholarship to Villanova. So that sports played a big part in my life and shaping me, and where some of my closest friends are still very good friends with a lot of players over the years.
And the Fisher family being big, a lot of good athletes, and then you have children of your own, and they become great athletes. So talk a little bit about that, which really is going to lead into why Sow Good Now.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I do. I have 3 sons and 2 daughters. So it goes girl, boy, boy. So I started coaching my daughters in volleyball, and the boys' dad coached them in football. So we probably had, and then they also did other sports like soccer and baseball and track. And so we had about 3 sports per kid going through the house. 5 kids, that's 15 teams a year, lots of schedules, lots of coaching, and always kind of thought that this was just going to end at high school. I spent so much time in driving them there and practice and bleachers and game time. So it was quite a juggle. And I thought sports are good so you get to know yourself better. You get to know where you fit in. But they continued to play. So as you know, 2 of them went on to play in the NFL. And that's just by gradually getting better at what the craft is that you're spending your time doing. But as a young mom, I always thought, okay, I always had this calling. I remember when I got out of Villanova, I got my first job, got a company car, and I was driving down Route 202. And I thought, well, now I have a paycheck and I have a car. is this what life's all about, right? Is this it? This is what I've been waiting for. And if you think back to my day, if you wanted to go into a life of service, you'd be a nun, right? Irish Catholic family. And I thought, that's not going to be me. And then, or you could be a missionary and go off to some country. And I knew my parents would never allow that. So I kind of thought, well, I guess you just get a job. But then when I had my first child, I realized, I said, oh, well, this is where I will make my impact. This is where I can pour into the future all of the things that I've learned from my parents, my siblings, my coaches, and make a difference there. So, we did start sports there. And as far as parenting goes, I said, okay, what's important, right? Having a very solid family foundation and talking about values. And also I thought, well, how do you break it down to emerge as a leader? So when the kids were like 3 and they would go to preschool for the first time, I'd make sure they knew how to zipper their coats, so that when they got to the time of the day when all the preschoolers were leaving, they'd be able to help the other kids zip their coats. So now the teacher is asking them to help, right? So they're already identifying them out. The peers are already looking to them for assistance, right? And they're practicing skill sharing at the age of 3. In our house, a lot of parents were, they'd be worried about the spill on the table or worried about something spilling. And I would say the sippy cups are in the drawer so that they could reach them, right? The lower drawer, get your sippy cup out, fill it with water from the refrigerator. And yes, there might be a bit of a spill, and that's risk taking, right? So you're telling them, yes, this could be a risk. We might spill and we'll get through it. And again, the peers are saying, oh, Ryan, can I have a cup of water, right? So always these little baby steps toward competence. Another one is when you're 4, you're poor. This is a really cool thing, is you see a 4-year-old's little skinny arm trying to pour a gallon of milk in a cup. And then when they set it down and it's success, you say, okay, that's something I mastered. And those tiny little nuggets of confidence start carrying you further. And those are the little decisions that, if you think back to me going to kindergarten, I did it. My brother took me, I figured it out. I can figure out the next thing. So parenting my children, I always thought about responsibility and accountability and independence and being a role model for other kids, and also empathy. I think being aware of others, and I think team sports really makes that part of who kids are. And you drop them off every day at school and you say, do a kind deed, have a great day and do a kind deed. Other parents would be worried about the kid not having a good day. Oh, I hope you have a good day today. Yeah. But if you do a kind deed, you usually get some positive feedback and you have a good day. And that's just kind of a ripple effect.
You mentioned teammates, having such a big family. Even I'm part of 3, you have 5 kids and then you were part of 12. That is, you can kind of liken it to a team, but when, your family is like a team, and sometimes when you have a big team, it could cause chaos or it could cause some great things. And there's moments of each, same with 5. And then you might have it where when you only have 1 and they're on their own. So you have to learn certain things. Do you ever think about what life would have been like if you were only part of if you had 1 brother, or maybe it was only 3 of you instead of that many of you? And did you know it because you grew up with such a big family that you wanted to have a big family?
Lots of questions in that question. Being part of a big family, it was a team. Everything was a team. One of the most exciting things that would happen is my mother would say, okay, Helen, let's get these kids working, right? And it felt good. We were all part of it, and there was always a lot to do. So yes, we were a team. And we were an inclusive team. There were always, whether you had one in your family or not, other families would fall on hard times, et cetera, and you'd be invited in. I think the lineup, are you the oldest? Are you the middle? Are you the end? We were just joking the other day. My twin brothers had their birthday, Greg and Jeff, and we're on a group text with all the siblings. And one of them is 7 minutes older than the other. And in those days, you didn't get an ultrasound. So it was a surprise that my mom had twins. And so we were texting, well, we really don't know if you're really Greg or really Jeff, because it was very chaotic during that time. And my brother, my older brothers said, those bracelets that they had for your names, I switched them one time. And then the other brother said, yeah, I switched them back. So, and my sister said, yeah, the nurses were probably like, which one is which now? So I think that is, could be like, oh my God, I don't even know if I have my right name. And, it's, you are who you are, and I think there's a lot of strength in having a sense of humor to laugh at yourself. And I think siblings help you do that in a big way.
I'm a twin myself. I think my mom said we were baby A and baby B, but I came out first. He was supposed to be first, and then we had a different plan, and I came out first. We're close to be. My sister, very close. We fought a lot up until probably she went to college. And, I know people who don't talk to their brothers and sisters. But how close is your family to, today? Does everyone, it's tough to find the time anyway, but is everyone pretty much on the same page, or you have?
Yeah. So we, my mom primarily, we would have family reunions every year. And, I think we always fight, right? Everybody, that's to me part of having a relationship. Other people say, oh my gosh, are you fighting with your sister? It's like, no, that's just how we talk to each other. Yeah. So I think it's probably more direct because there's often not a lot of time. When you're in a big family setting, you don't have the luxury of maybe couching things. So you want to get things done. But we have a great time. Some people live in Florida. Some live in Pennsylvania. Some in New Jersey. So some in the Virginia area. But with 12 kids, you can imagine, I think my mom has 42 grandchildren and maybe something like another 40 great-grandchildren, 30, I don't know. So there's hundreds of us that are blood related, and it's fun. When we get together, we have a really good time.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Well, let's get back. There's a ton I want to talk to you about, but let's talk about Sow Good Now. What I was trying to say is your kids played college, they played pro, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But that's sort of why Sow Good Now, right?
Yes. And I'll give you a little background. So you think the calling that I've always had, I said, where is the place for this, right? And while I was working in the financial services industry, I tried very hard to get into the charitable side of things. But it's such a small space. And then there was some other space, but it seemed that everyone there was wearing bow ties and, was more, a little less, I don't know how to describe it, but maybe more refined than I would be comfortable in that space. So all the while I was raising my kids and then working as a financial advisor for Vanguard, my quota was $32 million a month to bring in a new business. And I only talked to people that were moving at least $1 million. So I had the luxury of talking to many, 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 many highly intelligent, highly accomplished individuals. And every now and then, and we'd have lots of meaningful conversations about everything. Every now and then they'd ask me, well, how can I give back? I'm thinking, you're 70 years old. Why are you now asking me this? Right? Isn't this something, you're the brightest on the planet here. Why are you asking me? And
It is never too late, though, but it's a good question.
It is never too late, but I'm thinking in sports terms, where's the Pee Wee soccer for philanthropic giving? Where is the place where all of these people can evolve from swarming the ball from 5-year-old soccer to breaking into positions and understanding their strengths and contributing to the success. So I started thinking about that, and I started asking a ton of people questions, just kept asking more and more questions and doing research. Meanwhile, the youngest got a scholarship to Delaware. I was like, well, that kind of mitigates a little risk for me. So maybe I can pursue this. And that's what I did. I talked to many mentors, people in that field, went to Wells Fargo, and I worked on their philanthropic team. But a big eye opener was when Carl was a senior at Penn State. And I know you know what Penn State football is like, being a University of Florida guy, right? It's its own world. And he was getting all these awards. And over the years, I didn't grow up in a football life with my brothers, so it was new to me. And he was up for this award and that award, and I had other responsibilities with other kids and family members and my work. So I thought, well, do I take time off to go attend these awards? Are they really important, or is it just a participation trophy? I didn't know. So I asked the guys at work, and they're like, yeah, this is a real award. You should try to go. And I went to them, not all of them, but the ones I could. And it was the Lombardi Award in Houston, Texas. And Carl and I flew out there, and we went to visit a children's, still kills me. Anyway, we went to a children's hospital. And when we walked in, like, these football players just uplifted. These are college football players. It's Texas. They're not even from Texas. They're from Ohio and Penn State. And everybody's so excited. The parents have a light in their eyes in these very dark situations. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, look at the power that these athletes have. Everybody follows them. Everybody at work asks me about them. How about, instead of, while I just learn to answer my call, I lead them and along the path and say, maybe we'll help them be answering their call at the same time, be able to answer their call at the same time. So, if you think about community service and sports teams, it's nothing new. It's been around forever. To be in National Honor Society, you want to do community service. People are putting that emphasis on it. It's just that we bring it to the next level. At Sow Good Now, we are the champions of giving back in ways that inspire the player and the student athlete, for them to connect what's deep inside them and put it into action with kids who really need it. So, yeah, go ahead.
And what you learn from Vanguard and Wells Fargo is that you don't need to give $1 million to make a big impact. It's nice, but you don't need $1 million to make a big impact.
Right. And actually, you can teach the people who are giving $1 million ways they can do it that are really close to where the targets they want to hit, right? So if you think about it in sports terms, and I don't know if you know volleyball or not, but there's a middle and an outside hitter and a weak hitter, and the setter comes in. The middle has to jump to hit every single time. They're a constant threat, and that makes the middle blocker stay home so that the outside hitters can put it away. But if you think about philanthropy that way, right, and this huge wealth gap that's growing wider every day, it's almost like everything's a long bomb. Right? Nobody's developing the players in the middle. You have the ultra wealthy, and then you have, high poverty and things in there. So there's no really room for us currently the way we're organized. You can go join a nonprofit, you can volunteer at a nonprofit, but we are creating this extra space for them to practice and to innovate. And so it's just very, very exciting. So if you think about it, we were founded in July of 2018. And then, I said, well, let's see if this works. And it goes like this, right? Straight up. And the coaches are saying, we need more. The players are, the kids, they look like, you ever drop flakes on top of a goldfish bowl and the goldfish come up and go? That's what the athletes are like. So, and sports, I thought to myself, well, sports really are the only place or activity where people will have to continue to meet in person. And that is a way to really transform lives. And we can be guaranteed that they have to meet to play. But then COVID hit and kind of blew us out of the water for 2 years. We used that time to build our team. And we picked up, like for me to run a nonprofit board, I've not done that before, but I have coached for 20 years. And building a board is just like building a team. You get out there, you recruit, you know who's good at something, and you know how they're all going to play together. And just watching our team come together over the last 2 years was the most exciting thing that happened during COVID.
Startup, charity, nonprofit, it doesn't matter. Ticket times, you got to find the right people who know what they're doing and have done it before, and that you trust and that are aligned together. And that's you got to build a team. That's maybe one of the hardest things to do with a company and a charity, is to build the right team that's going to be the right message that you want to give, but then also help grow and understand the stuff that you don't know, which is a lot when you start this stuff that I didn't know, which is a ton when I started. It's tough to do.
It is. It's really, really hard to do. And you have to take a lot of rejection, I mean, okay. Hey, do you want to help us for free? And, okay, here's the meeting times and, bring this and this. So you do take a lot of rejection. It's not for the faint-hearted.
Have you, because we connected in some of the networking groups with Mark Moyer and in the club room and then the locker room with Claiborne. Have you connected with our friends at Every Kid Now?
Yeah, we did. That was I love locker room sports. So that's where I saw you. That was fun too. Met a lot of great people there. And in this space, it's just amazing the wonderful people that you get to spend time with. Every Kid Sports, we did connect with them. So, what we do is we bring kids from underserved areas to these high school and college environments, and we put the kids to work. But we don't have the capacity funding wise to offer the scholarship that Every Kid Sports does. So we're a connector. If you think back to that team approach, right, we can deliver that. We can get the word out. And we're that I guess it'd be a pass in basketball or a set and, volleyball, that type of thing. But yes, that was a great connection.
So how do people help? You have a team, you have athletes, you're always probably looking for athletes, right? That's one thing you guys could use. Every charity, every philanthropy needs money to operate. If I'm not an athlete and I don't have money to do, how can I help? And this is sort of a good lesson for any charity. You can always help, even if you don't have the money. Time is really a big thing, but what would that look like if I wanted to help with your organization?
Yeah, kind of like I would say, Matt, what are you good at, right? That's the first thing. What do you like to do and what can you do well? That's the opener, right? How do you see yourself fitting in on this team? So people say, oh, is it for athletes only? No, it's not, right? I think there's 45 million kids annually in the United States that participate in organized sports. That's a lot of young people. The opportunities are certainly, there's diversity in the number of opportunities in different places. But so how would you help? You could help organize, you could help market, you could help doing, like I consider you part of our team right now by just giving me the platform to be able to talk about the work we're doing. And every time I have a conversation with somebody, they'll say, I was thinking the same thing. I wanted to do the same thing. So, yeah, you could organize, you could advertise, you could help recruit. We have lots of people doing lots of different things. As we continue to evolve, we'd like to add more bells and whistles. But now we have grandparents that want to get involved. Their grandkids, they love seeing the kids do good. And that's something that they've been hoping to involve them in. You know, the other part is think about some of the current volunteer experiences, just say high schoolers. And if you go to, say, a nursing home, they've never been there before. They don't know how they work. There's this just really this awkwardness. But when you create it, you break down that barrier and you go to a place where these athletes are already confident. They know their way around. They have the support of their teammates, and they understand that they are highly skilled at this activity. But I will tell you, it's not always easy, but you increase your chances of having a very impactful the moment of service, a big aha. So we did this swim pack event, and we brought youth from Chester, PA, which is a pretty tough area, low opportunities, high poverty. And we took them to Malvern to these high school players, and there were 31 young people that had very little swim exposure, all kids of color. And I walked into the pool area. We walked them all in together. We had spent a half an hour getting their goggles on, preparing them, watching a water safety video. Then we bring them to the pool, and the swim coach is preparing her volunteers. And she's saying, we want to emphasize A, B, C, D, and doing her part. Walk in, I see these two ninth graders. And I'm telling you, Matt, it looked like they just saw a ghost. And the fear in their faces was just so like unbelievable. I said, what's the matter, guys? I kind of said, what's the matter? Are you afraid? Like, yeah, we've been swimming since we've been 2, but we never taught anyone before. So to watch them become transformed, you would think the other kids would be more afraid, but to watch them become transformed is really the magic of what we do. And then we involve them.
Talk about the Give Back program. What is that?
The Give Back is you take a high school or college team and you partner them with a youth group like Boys and Girls Club, or maybe kids from a charter school, maybe from a sports program area where they don't have a lot of opportunity to get one-on-one coaching. And we prepare the high school and college athletes through virtual education about philanthropy, about what it's like to be a good volunteer, about the organization the kids are coming from, and about skill transfer. So, why do athletes make good community leaders? Because they already work together toward a common goal, right? They're diverse. By the high school level, you definitely have a lot of diversity. The ability to fail in public also makes you a good future community leader. So we coach them in philanthropy and volunteerism to prepare them for this event. When the event occurs, then they start mentoring the young people that come. It's like near peer mentoring. And then an example would be when I was talking to the high schoolers, I said, what makes a good volunteer? What do you think is going to make a good volunteer today? They said, listen, be patient, talk to them. And I'm like, yep, those are all great qualities, but it's coming from inside them, right? It's tapping into that intrinsic part of who they are, and how we're all connected. And at this last baseball give back, it was hot that day, and we're probably maybe an hour and a half into the day, and one of the players comes trotting by me, and he does a U-turn, and he said to me, oh, I thought of something else. You have to be uplifting and encouraging. Mm-hmm. So you see how that player is transformed. and the coaches of the organization are saying, this is part of who we are. And if you think back to raising my own kids, what are the characteristics that we talked about? Ownership, accountability, empathy. So this is the space where these athletes who are going to be future leaders, right? They are. This is the place where we give them the tools. And we also talk about a donor advised fund.
And it's, some of the players come from disadvantaged and, really poor areas and families. But when you are not that way, and I'll admit I grew up, in a nice home and very privileged for a lot of things I got to do. And you see the people who they didn't have the advantages that you had. It just makes you want to help, and it makes you feel, which it should. If you don't get around some of these people who are very disadvantaged and just, it's the same reason why they look so grateful when they get the people around them, is that you should have that same feel like, man, I really sympathize with them, and I want to do whatever I can do to give them that feeling that I used to have, that I knew I grew up with.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. I mean, it's definitely true that some players feel that way, but also, what's disadvantaged, right? So there are a lot of wealthy kids who are disadvantaged in a lot of ways. And again, it's not about money. So, and at the high school and college level, those givers may not have anything, right? I mean, they may have come to college with nothing. So, but they're among people. And what do they say? The sum of the parts is never as, I don't know how that is, but you know what I'm saying. So without each other, you're not as strong. So that's where the diversity comes in.
You also have a lot of people, and it's very disappointing to see, who volunteer, who are at a place, and they might even be getting paid to do it. And it could be athletes where they're not engaged. They're just, I'm here, I'm going to do my time, I'm going to collect my money, or I'm just, to do it because I say I can. And you can tell it's a disappointing experience, whether they're famous or not, just to be around people who don't want to be there in that kind of environment. And I think you find a lot of people like that. So it's great when you see the people who are there and really being engaged and making it a good use of their time, other than just trying to help others.
Yeah, I think we approach it where we're all part of the same community. So I think we're trying to break down that mindset too, that it's us and them, right? It's all us. We're all one. We're all here together. We're not doing this for you. We're doing this for us, right? This is our thing, and this makes the world a better place. And we all have a role to play in it because it's a part of who we are. Maybe some of those kids don't want to learn baseball, but they're giving because maybe somewhere down the line, they may have a kid who wants to learn baseball. So by them figuring out how to put a glove on and how to teach a batting, maybe you're making them a better parent, and they're going to have to pay it forward. So it's more about the us factor that's created. And I think teamwork, when you say that on a team, it's all us. We're all the same team. And that's kind of what we foster.
I want to talk a little bit about being the parent of a professional athlete, and you not only had it once, but you had it twice. When did you know that your kids had a shot at being professionals? I mean, you could tell when you're younger, yeah, we're probably going to be able to play in college, but do you remember when you thought Ryan and Carl were going to have a chance?
Yeah, I never really thought about it, right? Because my focus on them is to help them become the person they were meant to be, to help them develop into those leaders, those empathetic people that I talked about. What it was going to look like, I didn't know. I just thought that whoever would get them in whatever career would be lucky to have them because of who they were. And that was my goal. So, I didn't really think about it when Ryan was in high school. I invited all my family up from Florida. I said, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but Ryan's a quarterback, and they're playing at Villanova, and a lot of them went to Villanova. Maybe you want to come up to a game and see it. We never really had a quarterback in the family before. This might be his last game. So, make a long story short, he got a scholarship to Syracuse, and that was fun. And I really, broke a lot of records, but I was very low on the learning curve. People, they went to a bowl game for the first time in many years. And the guys at work were talking about the different bowl games, etc. And this was a pinstripe bowl. So I didn't really know. And I stayed very focused on what's inside them so that the external things really just didn't come into play.
Yeah,
And
I remember watching him at Syracuse. Timing and luck. There's so much of it in life that we don't have control of. Ryan gets drafted by the Giants. Very little chance he's going to play because Eli Manning is there. If he gets drafted by another team, he maybe has a better shot at seeing the field more. And then I know he got injured, and so it's just crazy. The sports are like that. It's funny. Like Eli himself, he was at the top, so he had the opportunity to say, "Hey, I want to play. I don't want to play." The same thing happened with John Elway, who was my favorite player of all time. But most people can't choose. You're grateful to be drafted. I'm sure he loved his experience as a pro, and it would be great. But you got to think in sports, it's like if I got drafted somewhere else, maybe my career is a little bit different. Especially as a quarterback, that's harder. And now with Carl, he gets drafted. They were both third round, or one was third and one was fourth. I know it was not like that late, but pretty high up. He's at a different position where he's going to get a chance to play and prove, and he's done that, gotten big contracts and changed teams and become a very good player. But I know that if you ask people about Carl-Nassib, the people who aren't, they're going to talk about the other reason why he's in the news. Because he was one of the few athletes to come out as gay, right? So I want to hear a little bit from your perspective as a mother, and knowing that you had someone else in your family like that. Is that something you knew? I mean, this is something that I've had people on the show to talk about. And every time something like that happens, I always say it's going to be great when we don't. That's not even a story. Like, who cares if it's the first person to do this and the first person to do that? That's one of those things, especially in sports. But you had some experience with that. How is that as a mother, where of a professional athlete, you have to be protective of your kids. Either way. Tell a little bit about being the mother of a professional athlete and what that's like for you.
That's kind of, what do you like about sports? I'm always, what is your main drive to following sports the way you do? Like, what's inside you that?
I don't know. I love competition, but I've just been playing sports my whole life. I didn't really have a choice in the matter, but I ended up liking it from the start. I feel for the kids who get thrown into all these youth sports and they don't like it. If you watch this, have you seen the Manti Te'o documentary? It's a wild story. I don't know if you knew about it, but the documentary on Netflix is a wild story. And it kind of starts with this kid who's in Hawaii, whose family was all about faith and family and football, and he hated football. But I don't have a good answer for that. I think I just I do like the competition. And
So what sports did you play?
I played everyone played soccer. I played basketball and baseball. My parents wouldn't let me play football because of the physicality of it. I wish they would have let me, because I think I would have been pretty good at it. Baseball, I broke my wrist and didn't go on. And basketball, I played fairly well, and I still do today. I love basketball, but I do love college more than I love pros now, and that's because I went to a school like UF. I feel like it's more. It used to be, maybe not as right now, but the pureness of it, right? It wasn't all about the money and all about it was just kids wanting to play for the love of playing. That's what really draws me to college more than pros.
What, and you said John Elway is your favorite player?
Yeah, he's my favorite football
favorite
player.
Athlete?
Yeah, probably my favorite athlete of all time.
Yeah. Why is that? I'm always curious
Yeah, I
because
don't know. I grew up in New Jersey, and he got drafted by the Yankees, which a lot of people know. Dan Marino got drafted by the Yankees too, and I just thought it's cool for a football player to be drafted. And then when he got to the Broncos, that became my team right when he got drafted, and I've been a Broncos fan ever since. And he was just my favorite.
hmm yeah, I the reason I ask is I was talking to someone. I said, why are there so many fans? Why are there so many sports fans? What is it, and when did it start that people follow athletes? Because I looked at sports as a way to develop what's on the inside, but a lot of people look at what's on the outside. When I moved to the Philadelphia area, everyone said, "Oh, we hate the Cowboys and the Giants,"
Yeah,
right? And I said, "Well, why do you hate the Cowboys and the Giants?" And when you're from the outside, oh well, and I still don't. I mean, I'm assuming they lost Super Bowls or lost chances for Super Bowls or
I hate
something.
the Cowboys myself.
Okay, so
They were and Notre Dame, because they were granted to be America's team. They had a lot of success in the past, and they lost that success, and then people just they get all the attention for, I think, the wrong reasons. But I think that's true for a lot of people in the New York area, and the Eagles
mm,
fans are very passionate, and like the
mm,
Steelers fans, and so Penn State. There's a lot of,
mm,
it's just, that's just how it is. But we grew up in the beginning watching sports, and then you just gravitate towards certain players, mostly because of how they play on the field. Then you had the whole Charles Barkley thing with, like, I'm not a role model, and it's true to an extent. It's not his responsibility to be your role model, but the leagues and the teams, they should want their players to be good people. And I think there's just a lot of that's not in there in professional sports. So when you find someone who is that way, who can really use their platform to make a difference, I think they're going to do well if it's genuine. There's a lot of people who maybe not.
yeah. And does it matter if it's genuine if you're getting something good done? I mean, isn't that still better than not doing it at all?
It's better than
So,
not doing it all, but for
mhm,
me,
mhm,
genuine and authenticity is a huge part of it.
mhm,
Because what's going to happen when, like, look at all the good that Lance Armstrong did. He did a lot of good, but then he just, it all collapsed. I
mhm.
still think he'd want to do it again because there was so much good, and it was, there was good intentions behind it. But you're right.
Well,
At the end of the day, it's better to have done and help than.
what about you? Do you consider yourself a role model?
I don't know if I'm in front of enough people to be a role model. I'd like to consider myself a good person who's, paving a way for others to hopefully want to be better the same way I'm trying to be better every day. And but I'm not in front of enough people. I'd like to think I'm going to be a good role model for my nieces and nephews. That's
Mhm,
really all, and maybe my family members. I know that my sister was a good role model for me, and has really changed me to be a little bit who I am. There's always events that happen in your life that kind of change you. Hopefully, I always used to think I was a good person, but there was a lot of stuff I did that wasn't great, and now I try and not do a lot of things. Um,
mhm,
but we're all human. I had John O'Leary on the podcast. We're all human. There's nobody perfect. I'm not,
mhm,
claiming to try and be the Tim Tebows and the Mister Rogers of the world, but
mhm,
I'll put myself, in the higher levels of trying to do good. And I think there's a lot of people who are like that. Unfortunately, I don't think there's as many. There's a lot of people who want to do that, who portray themselves as that, and they're not. And so I don't know.
mhm. Well, I think you're a role model, right? I think if we say, I think I heard you say that athletes should be role models, and the word "should" to me is probably my least favorite word in the whole English vocabulary, because should is someone projecting on either themselves or, if athletes choose to be role models, um,
How about, I
that's
think it would be nice if they were. I think it would be great if they were.
sure. I mean, absolutely. It's great when they are, right? It's amazing when they are, because so many people follow them. In particular, college athletes, like you said, college football is huge, right? It's huge. Penn State football is crazy. University of Florida football, Gators football. It doesn't get any bigger than that. So, as far as parenting diverse kids and managing the ways they're unique and providing opportunities for them to succeed, it never ends. From the day they're born, it begins, and then it never ends, no matter what.
But I don't think that's the case for every parent of a college athlete or pro. I mean, I see that, like, parents arguing with the kids on where they want to go to school, and then you don't hear it. So it's good to know. I think that's the way. It would be great if everyone was like that and supported their kids in whatever they went, whatever school they went to, whatever they wanted to do. If they wanted to continue playing, if they want to stop playing, if they want to be a part of whatever.
Oh yeah, that's a disaster when because from a coaching perspective, I have the parent perspective, I have a player being a D1 athlete, being a coach, being a mother. I have been on all points of the sphere, and when I coach, I say to the parents, because they'll start, putting pressure on young people when they're not really sure what they're doing themselves. And when that's like the should thing that you just said, oh, you should serve harder, or you should. For me, if I get to sense that in parents, I may have a parent day where I actually ask them to come out and try it themselves. And it's a bit humbling. Yeah. So then we turn to have a good season. You only need to do that every several years because the other parents kind of talk about it. Or if you find yourself getting over involved in the outcome of your kids' practice or games or development, if you're hyper focused, I always say, what team are you on? You still play basketball, right? As I said, go join a team. You become part of a club and join a team and show up and do it every day, and then we'll come back and talk about it. So there has to be that balance in the parent's role of an athlete's life.
As a parent for a professional athlete, was there stuff that you encountered, experienced, or felt or learned with Ryan going to a high-level Division I and then going to the NFL first that prepared you for when Carl was going through the same thing, or was it the same? Did things change for you? What was?
Matt, I wish I was smarter, but I was not very smart. I think the whole draft thing had no experience with. Yeah, I did know I think when Ryan got drafted, my sisters and I were saying, wait, how many teams are there? What teams are there? That type of thing. Yeah. So again, if it happens, great. If not, you'll be successful. It's a job is the way I looked at it. You're hired. It's just a little bit more public than what most other people do. If one of your friends got a job, it's usually not in the newspaper. Yeah. But I also realized that they'd been performing in front of crowds since ninth grade, so they probably were comfortable with it. And the same with Carl getting drafted. His story was kind of unique, being the walk-on, and you always get to a point where you either continue in that career or you pivot or you grow. I was talking to you about what this these episodes, what are we looking to accomplish? How does this develop your whole goal in life? And I think the same thing. I think people have to just look at professional sports the same way they look at their own work. The only funny part is that you have hundreds of thousands of people commenting on your job every day, and most jobs don't have that.
Do you enjoy watching them play? I mean, as a parent, I know it gets a little frustrating. People get all nervous for them, and sometimes they feel more nervous than the actual players on the team.
Yeah, when Ryan was a quarterback and people were chasing him, that was my first experience with it. Yeah. And that was very nerve-wracking. So But when you see them in their element and you see them come alive and you can see the way they tap their foot, you can see the way they move, you just get this laser focus on your own child. And when so Penn State, they went through the Sandusky thing, then Joe Pa died, they had the one coach, and then Franklin. But I remember being at a game, which was the first time Carl went on the field. And I forget, we were with a few family members in a section, and we were screaming, he's going out on the field, he's going out on the field.
Like Rudy.
Yeah, it was like Rudy, and he made one play and it didn't go well or something. So he came back off the field, and we didn't care. We were there. We witnessed the moment, and we thought everyone was screaming for him. And we thought we had witnessed his one big play that he was ever going to make. And from there, you just go game after game, play after play after play.
But it's different watching, like the quarterback, the highs and the lows are so further around, like how great they can do and how bad they can do performance-wise, and could they, someone's chasing them, different than watching someone on defense who's, it's
great. Yeah, for Ryan, it was very funny. So he went to Syracuse, and there was his jersey in the bookstore before a game, and I heard these people talking. I was there with one of my girlfriends who played volleyball with me at Villanova, and she heard the two guys talking. Nassib, what is he? Middle Eastern? Nassib, what kind of name is that? And they're just talking about your son's last name in front of you. And my girlfriend says, it's Nassib, okay? It's Nassib, for goodness sakes. And he's got blonde hair and he's blue-eyed. Don't you ever look at the roster or something? So to watch her for the first time kind of deal with other people's opinions, again, you have to have a sense of humor. I'd sit in the stands, and Ryan would make great play after great play after great play. And the people in front of you would say, Nassib, you suck. Nassib, you suck. And then finally by his senior year, they started saying, Nassib, you suck. I'm like, oh, good. We're getting somewhere.
They got it right.
It's making progress. So,
there's nothing more. Sports fans are the most ignorant people in the world. They just are. There's no group of people that are as ignorant as sports fans.
I don't know about that.
And they don't even care.
You can't generalize, but they are funny sometimes. They are very funny sometimes.
The people, they'll talk and they don't even have a clue what they're talking about, and they'll fight it till they'll die on that hill, as they say.
They do, for sure. So
that's why we let the scoreboard talk.
That's right.
Let the scoreboard doesn't lie.
That is
generally speaking, that's it. So if you are looking to get involved with Sow Good Now, what can they do?
Mm-hmm. Well, you can donate, right? So your donations cover things like equipment, facilities, transportation, and food for the specific givebacks. They also help us do our educational piece. We'd love to have you volunteer. If you have skills and you have that little nagging feeling inside you that you've got more to give, whether you're a parent, whether you're a team lead at a company, we find places for you to contribute. And we'll probably ask you to keep contributing at higher levels so that you'll become a really good giver. We also want people to spread the word about the work we're doing. I think it's important that people know that we're here, we're growing, and the kids are hungry for it. And they both emerge a lot better and stronger after a give back program, both sides.
How about athletes? You're always looking for athletes, right? I mean, what makes a good
so in athletes, right? So of course we look for teams, players who really care about helping others, who have been helped themselves and want to pay it forward. Could tell you a million stories about athletes who are very grateful for the coaching they've received and the opportunities they've received. And it's never as fulfilling as them actually seeing somebody whose parents or aunts or uncles didn't know how to put on a baseball glove. They didn't even know what to look for, which hand to use. Things we take for granted, that the athletes come alive. So yeah, we're always looking for athletes.
Well, I think it's a great organization. I
Mhm.
love sports. Was such a huge part of my life growing up, and it's a big part now. I don't have a great reason for why. It just makes me happy. The same way listening to music and going to concerts makes me happy. Sometimes it's just a good way to get out of life, take a break for a moment. Although there's plenty of life lessons in sports, but take a break for a moment and just be a kid. And I feel that way sometimes when I'm on the basketball court and I'm 40 something years old. So I think it's great what you're doing. And I encourage everyone to take a look at the website, as you see here, sowgoodnow.org, and find out how you can help, whether it's a donate, whether you know someone who's an athlete, whether you can donate your own time. Time is probably the most important thing that people can give, because almost everyone can give time. Not everyone can give money. And so, find some way to make the world.
Absolutely. Time is precious. So really decide where you share it. And we're very grateful. I mean, that's what we run on, is the time that people give us.
Yeah.
That's really what it is all about.
Well,
So
we'll give you we'll let you out of the Wolff Den with the same question we let everyone out with. You can pick one person in the world to spend a day with, 24 hours. It could be anyone in the world, but they have to be alive, and you can't be related to them. Who would you choose, and what would you guys do?
I was going to say Mother Teresa, but she's not alive. I never got to meet her before she died. So, who would
So
I
John
want?
O'Leary, who we had on, I encourage you to watch his episode. We're going to be doing some clips. He said the lady who's the next Mother Teresa, because he said something about when someone met Mother Teresa and they looked down, they saw how ugly her feet was, and they figured that's such a great thing, like what she must have done to get feet that ugly. And he wants to meet the next person with the ugly feet, and that was his one person. But we have to have someone who's alive. So give us something.
Well, I just decided I want to meet John O'Leary then. So there you go. Someone that understands life that way. He's got to be very, very cool. So,
He's got a remarkable
mhm,
story,
mhm,
like nothing I've ever seen. The best motivational speaker I ever saw in person. He's
mhm,
on the Wolff Den, so I'll send you the clip, and we'll let him know that
mhm.
it'll make
Yeah,
his day. It'll
hook
make
me
his
up,
day to know
Matt.
that you
That's
made
right.
the answer.
Yeah, somebody who has that vision of life and the beauty of the ugly feet. That's the kind of person that I admire. So that'd be awesome.
I love it. Great to see you here. I'll see you
Thanks, Matt.
either at a Fisher reunion or at another locker room event. And
Yeah, we got to do a reunion again soon for sure.
looking forward to seeing this thing blossom. Have
All
a
right,
great day,
thanks a lot,
everyone. We'll
Matt.
get some
You
more
too.
Wolff Den this
Thank
year.
you.
Have a great day and do something good.
That's right. Do a kind deed.